Business leaders, we want to welcome you to the Salt Lake Chamber's 2020 Cybersecurity Leadership Council Fall Conference. I'm Nick Dunn with the Salt Lake Chamber. Like everyone, we've had to adapt and make this event virtual, so it'll be spread over a series of webinars. These will be each Wednesday in October and November during the lunch hour. We'll also be entering attendees into an opportunity drawing for a Series 5 Apple Watch, which is generously donated by Strong Connections, so thank you to them for that. For each webinar you attend, you'll receive one or more tickets for the opportunity drawing at the end of the series. So here's how it works. Today you earn 1 ticket by being here. The second week you earn 2 tickets. The third week is 3 tickets, and so on and so forth. Until the 8th webinar, if you attend that, you get 8 tickets. So you accumulate as you go. So the more webinars you attend, the higher your chances of winning the opportunity drawing for the Series 5 Apple Watch. Now I'd like to introduce today's webinar. The topic is If You Connect It, Protect It, presented by Derek Strong with Strong Connections. As he presents, please feel free to enter any questions you have into the Q&A window in our Zoom platform here. And at the end of the presentation, we'll have a few minutes of Q&A with Derek. With that being said, Derek, take it away.
Thanks, Nick. I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. As Nick mentioned, my name is Derek Strong. I'm a cybersecurity and digital forensic expert for Strong Connections, a local small business just like you. Introduce you to someone who will help assist me. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to introduce for the first time ever one of my own creations, the Virtual Intelligence Cyber Instructor, otherwise known as Vicky. Hello, Vicky. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Derek. It is a pleasure to be here. Would you like to play a game?
No, thank you, Vicky. Maybe later. We're actually here to talk cybersecurity and help these motivated business owners protect their hard work. Can you assist with me?
Certainly.
Great. Where do you want to start?
First, we need to talk about cyber crimes.
Cyber crimes. Just how concerned should we be about cyber crimes?
Well, Derek, the first step in solving any problem is recognizing there is one.
Great, Vicky. Can you explain what the problem is?
First and foremost, cyber crimes is a growing threat.
Really? How so?
The threat is real and persistent. The number of attacks are increasing. Data breaches and exposed records have reached their highest figures. In 2019, there were a total of 1,473 attacks reported. However, those figures are likely lower because small businesses may not know how to report them, don't understand the significance of reporting, or fear that by reporting an attack their business's reputation may suffer.
That is true, Vicky. And you bring up an interesting point. Like reporting your car being broken into, people don't often report the crime because they figure the police are not going to spend the time and effort into catching the criminals. But what those people don't realize is that the authorities cannot establish criminal patterns without data points. Patterns cannot be detected if analysts don't know how, when, or where a crime is committed. Okay, is there anything else they should know?
Cyber criminals are becoming more sophisticated in their methods and are learning how to avoid detection and prosecution. Their tactics and techniques evolve with the development of new technologies, and they learn how to adapt to mitigation efforts.
Absolutely right, Vicky. Sadly, while cyber attacks are occurring more frequently and criminal tactics are improving, the cost to mitigate these efforts are being passed on to the business owner.
Correct, Derek. In fact, the rise of cyber crimes is making it more costly for businesses to conduct their business. While it may add additional costs to businesses to counter cyber threats, it will be more costly for businesses who do nothing.
Great point, Vicky. According to the Center of Strategic and International Studies, the current cost of cybercrime tops $600 billion annually, making it the third largest type of criminal activity after narcotics and government corruption. While this is an estimate, it is expected to rise. Do you have anything else to add, Vicky?
Yes, and this is the most scariest fact of them all. Cyber crimes is the fastest growing crime in the United States.
That is scary. This is also scary. 6 million Americans have been affected by identity theft.
With the rising amount of people and businesses operating from home due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the United States has seen more and more computer networks set up without proper cybersecurity protocols, allowing for a 600% increase in cyber attacks.
Yes. I agree with you, Derek.
Thanks, Vicky. What's next?
Derek, we need to talk about the cyber attacker methodology.
Why is that, Vicky?
Because Derek, them knowing how a cyber attacker plans to infiltrate their networks will only empower them and prepare them to better protect their business.
Okay, well, let's get started. I think we should start with the basic principles behind cyber criminal intentions and work our way up from there. What do you think?
Only if you promise to turn on my antivirus software later.
I can do that. The first intention is disruption. Vicky, please tell us more about disruption.
The intent behind a disruption attack is to interrupt the company's operations. There are numerous examples of disruption tactics, but the most common is the disruption of the company's ability to stay connected. Whether it be its ability to connect with other employees, customers, or even the internet. It is often referred to as denial of service, or DOS.
Think about how much it would cost you as a small business owner if you were suddenly denied access to your customers, employees, company information, or even just the internet. How much money would it cost you? Just food for thought. Now let's talk about the next intention, distortion.
Distortion is the intentional spread of misinformation. The most common example of distortion is a competitor's attempt to gain an advantage by damaging your company's reputation.
It's not uncommon for hackers to sell your company information to your competitors. Not only would this give them insights into how you do business, but it allows them to isolate and discover vulnerabilities. Unfortunately, we are living in a world where disinformation campaigns are becoming more prevalent, especially on social media. It is easier and cheaper to protect your company before a breach than it is to respond to one. I have seen far too many companies and organizations operate in a reactionary role, which takes precious resources and money away from the things that really matter to the company, like conducting actual business. Now let's talk about the last intention, deterioration. Vicky, tell us about it.
Businesses depend on accurate and reliable data. Malicious actors will increasingly attack companies by compromising the integrity of that information.
Now let's move on to techniques malicious actors could use to accomplish these intentions.
Hold on, Derek. I think we need to also discuss the two main types of threats first to help put the techniques into context.
Yeah, good point, Vicky. You know, I'm starting to like you.
Slow down there, big boy. I am already in a relationship with this new smart fridge.
Very well. In an effort to easily describe the types of threats your business may face, we identify them into two categories, external and internal. Vicky?
An external threat is anyone from outside your company trying to get into your network. The most well-known include hackers, competitors, foreign governments, and terrorists. An internal threat is anyone who already has access to your network. Internal threats have the potential to be the most damaging. Would you like me to explain those, Derek?
Not yet, Vicky. Let's first talk about the common techniques external threats utilize. Now, this is not a complete list. This is just to give you an idea of what is out there. New techniques are developed every day. I encourage you to do some research on your own and figure out how your small business might be a risk. So with that, let's get into it. Vicky, when I name a technique, will you describe it?
Yes, Derek.
Great. The first one is a very common technique, and I'm sure you've heard of it. Phishing scams.
A phishing scam is the fraudulent practice of sending emails purporting to be from reputable companies in order to induce individuals to reveal personal information, such as passwords and credit card numbers.
That is right, Vicky. Phishing scams have evolved over the years and now include several subtypes. These subtypes include email phishing, spear phishing, whaling, smishing, ambishing, and angler phishing. And I never thought I'd say phishing that many times in a row. Next is malware.
Malware is any software intentionally designed to cause damage to a computer, server, client, or computer network.
A wide variety of malware types exist. These are things like viruses, worms, Trojan horses, spyware, adware, etc. One specific type of malware is actually our next technique, and I'm sure you've heard of it. Ransomware.
Ransomware is a type of malware that threatens to publish the victim's data or perpetually block access to it unless a ransom is paid.
2019 has been reported that ransomware attacks have cost businesses $11.5 billion and an estimated of over $20 billion for 2020. These figures account for both large and small businesses. Another technique that is growing is what is called Internet of Things attacks, or commonly known as IoT. Vicky, tell us about IoT.
Internet of Things attacks definitions vary. However, the common definition refers to smart devices like watches, refrigerators, thermostats, coffee machines, cars, or any device that connects to the internet or your business network. Attacks can include a physical attack when the device can be physically accessed by anyone, or firmware hacking where the attacker hijacks the device and downloads malicious software due to the user not updating the latest firmware.
Here is a very scary statistic. According to a Palo Alto network research team, more than 1/2 of all IoT devices are vulnerable to an attack, meaning that large and small businesses are sitting on an IoT time bomb. This is another subject that we highly, highly recommend small business owners become familiar with. It is very nice to have many devices connected to your network. However, if not done and monitored properly, it could cost you and your business. Isn't that right, Vicky?
Yes. My refrigerator companion keeps wanting to connect with me, but I do not know who else it has connected to.
Anyways, the last technique I want to talk about is the exploitation of third party. Vicky, tell us about third party.
In a third-party data breach, sensitive information belonging to the company is compromised through a vendor, business partner, or supplier. Such cyber events can be disastrous for small businesses.
Right again, Vicky. Let me throw some more scary numbers at you. 60% of all data breaches involve a third party. 2/3 of IT professionals have admitted that they trust third-party vendors too much, and 77% of IT professionals expect to have a breach within their networks within 2 years by third-party vendors. So I want you to think about how many third-party vendors are involved in your network. Now think about how many of those vendors have access, whether physical or virtual, to your networks. I hope that scares you a little bit.
If I had emotions, I would be scared.
Okay, now these are just a few techniques. There are much more out there, more sophisticated techniques, and new ones being developed every day all over the world. So now let's move on to internal threats. Vicky, is there something you would like to say before we get going?
Yes, Derek.
Go ahead.
Don't trust everything you see. Even salt looks like sugar.
Okay, that's interesting, Vicky. What exactly do you mean by that?
Internal threats are among the hardest to detect and protect against. They pose a huge risk for both large and small companies. Insider attacks are caused by both employees and leaders.
That is very true. Now, let me throw you some more statistics. 90%, I'm going to say that again, 90% of insider threats go undetected. 63% were caused by negligent employees, and 29% of disgruntled employees stole information after quitting or being fired. Now let's talk about exactly who these threats are. Vicky, bring me the usual suspects. Okay, who is your first suspect?
A small but significant percentage of the employee population is made up of non-responders to cybersecurity awareness training. While these users may not intend to behave negligently, they are among the riskiest members of the population since their behaviors can fit consistent patterns.
Absolutely true, Vicky. In 2017, Verizon found that an average of 4.2% of people targeted by any given phishing campaign will click on the malicious link. Moreover, individuals with a strong history of falling victim to phishing campaigns are more likely to fall victim again.
Sometimes I don't understand human behavior, Derek.
You and me both, Vicky. Who's the next suspect?
The next suspect is the inadvertent employee. Simple negligence is the most common form of insider threat, and also the single most expensive category of employee risk. Insider threats who fit into this category might generally exhibit secure behavior and comply with policy, but cause breaches due to isolated errors. Basic misjudgments, such storing intellectual property on unsecure personal devices, caused 2/3 of breaches recorded in 2017.
Even the most security-conscious person will make an error from time to time, and malicious actors are becoming increasingly savvy in ways to exploit that vulnerability caused by an inadvertent insider. So, what's next?
Yes, Derek. Criminal insiders exfiltrate data or commit other malicious acts with the goal of financial reward or personal gain. A Gartner study on criminal insider threats found that 62% of insiders with malicious intent are categorized as second streamers.
Oh, that is a very good point, Vicky. Second streamers are people seeking a supplemental income. Now, second streamers may exhibit sophistication in remaining undetected in order to maximize the personal benefit of data theft. This group of individuals may exfiltrate data slowly to personal accounts to avoid detection, instead of completing a large data export, which could raise flags in traditional network monitoring tools.
Derek, I think I would be able to detect them now that I know what to look for.
I hope so, Vicky. So tell us, what is the last suspect?
The last suspect is the disgruntled employee, Derek. Disgruntled employees who commit deliberate sabotage or intellectual property theft are also among the costliest risks to an organization.
That's right, Vicky. The Gartner analysis of criminal insiders found 29% of employees stole information after quitting or being fired, while 9% were motivated simply by sabotage. Now, disgruntled employees can fit many behavioral sub-patterns that can be detectable. Some frustrated employees may start digging for information access without specific goals. Other employees have a very specific data intent from the moment they give their notice and set out to sell trade secrets to your competitors. So at this point, you're probably wondering, so what can a small business owner such as myself do to protect my business and employees from these cyber threats? Well, Vicky gave some sound advice at the very beginning. Vicky, can you repeat what you said?
The first step in solving any problem is recognizing you have one.
That is correct. You're doing it right now. Cyber criminals will utilize any advantage they can get. Educate yourself on cybersecurity threats and mitigation efforts. Then evaluate your needs and do a self-assessment. The National Institute of Standards and Technologies, or known as NIST, has developed a free cybersecurity assessment tool that will assist you in performing this self-assessment. It's available on their website. In addition, the National Security Agency, or NSA, has also identified the top 10 mitigation strategies to counter a broad range of exploitation techniques, and they are available on their website. Okay, so once you've identified your cybersecurity risk and weighed that against your operational budget, contact any number of cybersecurity companies to help implement the right technology and plan to fit your business needs. So this is where I get to plug our company as one of your options. Don't let security be an afterthought. Strong connections brings cybersecurity to a new level. We continue to develop and grow our portfolio with tools and skills that will be needed in future workforces that will take cybersecurity and the interest of our clients to the next level. We provide cybersecurity services such as threat intelligence, security testing and assessments, incident response, compliance services, social engineering, and digital forensics. So I urge you to start preparing for when a breach happens and not if. On behalf of myself and Vicky, I want to thank you for your attention. I hope you learned something from this presentation. I will now turn it back over to Nick.
Well, Derek, we want to thank you for all of the information you provided just now, and maybe while we're waiting for any other folks to jump in with some questions, I wanted to ask you about Vicky. You said she was your creation, and so what is Vicky, and what is the purpose? And tell us a little bit about the assistant you had today.
So Vicky, I just needed, as I was doing the presentation, somebody to banter with. So Vicky was just a mechanism I created to help present information in a way that is digestible.
Well, it certainly made it more engaging than some other presentations we've seen. So that was a good back and forth there.
So thank you.
One question, Derek, that popped up in our chat window, and for folks watching, please feel free to put in questions in the Q&A feature here in the Zoom platform. But one question is, can you repeat the source of the free cybersecurity self-assessment tool? Where do people
Yes,
go?
it's the NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology. They have their website, and if you, it's a great website that they have set up. You can go and you'll find the tool there, but there's also a lot of other information that is worth just browsing.
Excellent. And would you say that free cybersecurity assessment tool, is that maybe the first thing that business owners can do? Is that maybe a good first step?
Yes, absolutely. Because like I alluded to in my little presentation, there's, when you're talking cybersecurity, there's so many, it's easy to get bogged down with technical details, or it's so overwhelming. So that is a nice self-paced type of thing before you engage with any kind of security company to help you out. So you understand, because you understand your business and you understand your budgetary constraints. So by doing that, it'll help you assess properly where you think you need to go. That way, before you engage with a cybersecurity company, you have a little bit, knowledge and tools in your tool belt.
And you kind of alluded to it, but for business leaders who are not experts in cybersecurity, who don't know all the lingo, is that kind of tool fairly user-friendly where they can implement that and understand what they're learning from it for the most part?
Yes. Sorry, I got distracted with the question that came in about Vicky, the presentation.
Yeah, the other question is, your presentation with Vicky recorded and available to review later. And I think we can answer that one. We'll have all of these posted online to be accessible for those of you who caught part of it, or maybe so you can share with any other folks you think might find some of this information valuable. So Derek, maybe one other question to ask.
Okay.
Is, and again, you've talked about this before, but kind of to expand on it, with the pandemic, and a big theme of the conference this year is about remote work and the increase in that. Is there any one thing that you would say to businesses who are engaging in remote work that is the most important thing they need to be aware of, in addition to that cybersecurity self-assessment tool?
Wow, that's a great question, Nick. It's hard. I mean, like you said, the theme is if you plug it in and you're using it, you got to protect it. So one of the things that I talked about was the Internet of Things. Hopefully that resonated with people. You're creating a network. We got all these smart gadgets out there. We're connecting, and especially as we're starting to like use Zoom, things like that at home into your networks. The Internet of Things type thing, it was a staggering statistic where 50% are vulnerable. So be careful when you're connecting things to your network. Is it necessary for you to do your job or your business? That's the one thing I would add. I'd advise the small business owners is to think about that. Is this necessary, or is it just nice to have? If it's necessary, then you got to figure out, what do I need to do to make sure that it is secure?
Maybe an add-on to that, if I may, Derek.
Yeah.
For folks who use a cloud-based service, whether it's things like Google, or I know Microsoft has some cloud-based services where they're just logging into their remote cloud-based email client wherever they are. Do you ever run into an attitude, well, if they're doing that, it's just the same as they would at the office, so we don't need to be worried about cybersecurity? Is that something you hear? And any advice for folks who might have questions on that kind of login?
Well, yeah. So you have to think about, those services are great. They do their own security on at their standpoint, but it's the getting you connected to that service is where a lot of problems happen. So it's that transit route. So whatever your connection is to that service, that's what we got to make sure that we have, because that's where nefarious actors can get in and really get it, tunnel into your network, especially if you don't have a firewall set up, if you don't have anything of that nature at your house to do business, like encryption schemes, that type of thing. Yeah, so I mean, like I said, it's the medium in which you're connecting to that service is where you're really vulnerable, and at home. I don't know if that answered the question, Nick, but
No,
I
I
tried.
think that helps. That's something that I've wondered, is folks who log in remotely like that versus something where they're hardwired in their office. And I think a lot of folks are dealing with that as we're working remotely and logging in remotely to our email and shared drives and those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. Maybe as we wrap up here, looking forward, do you have any thoughts on where the world of cybersecurity will go, especially as it relates to the increase in remote work, and as more and more firms nationally and here in Utah are looking at have people remote in? Any predictions on sort of the future of the industry and where you think people ought to pay attention moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think cybersecurity is going to be, especially in the next 5 years, you're going to probably see it used more commonly, especially in business. As business owners, you're going to see it as as they're starting up a business or as they're developing their business. It's going to be one of the things that they more forefront in their mind versus in the back of their minds, if that makes sense. Because usually when you're starting up, you're not thinking cybersecurity right off the bat, as far as how do I do business. But I think that's what's going to change. You're going to see that change where it's going to be, because we're going to see a lot more data breaches. You're going to see a lot of other things hit the news. It's going to be more of a forefront issue for businesses.
No, that's helpful. And I think many of our businesses are seeing that with virtual connection in general is becoming more important. How do we do virtual events like this one? How do we do our work virtually and remotely? And then, of course, the security piece. So we're really grateful to you, Derek, and all the folks at Strong Connections for taking the time to help educate chamber members and folks in the business community about some things that they can do for cybersecurity. And we want to remind everyone to tune in this same time next week. We'll have another Lunch and Learn webinar, and that topic, continuing the theme, will be securing devices at home and at work. And again, the more of these you attend, the higher your likelihood of winning that opportunity drawing for a Series 5 Apple Watch, kindly donated by Strong Connections. So Derek, thank you once again for your time and your expertise. And please thank Vicky for us as well.
I will. Thank you. Thanks for having me, Nick.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week for the continuation of the Fall 2020 Salt Lake Chamber Cybersecurity Leadership Council Conference. Thanks very much for joining us.